Yeah. Me too.
Okay, I think we're gonna just hop in to get started so we can let you all enjoy the rest of your evening. But I just wanted to say, first of all, welcome and thank you everyone for joining us on this lovely Wednesday evening. I know you all probably had other things to do, but it does really mean a lot that you all came in and joined our first webinar. Um, so today we're actually going to be talking about first generation Coyote families and what that may look like for your student, how you all can support your students, and whatnot. We are doing this webinar in honor of First Generation Celebration Week. It is a celebration that is at least celebrated in the United States. I don't know if it's celebrated nationwide. But it is celebrated on a lot of campuses, whether it's week longs, whether it's just a day of events. But we wanted to make sure that our parents and our families and our supporters got to understand what it does mean to be a first generation student, and what that means for their families and how they can best support their students. So without further ado, we're going to start off with introducing ourselves. For those of you that I have not met, I did have the honor of meeting a lot of individuals during the summer when I started my role back in June. But my name is Angela Padilla Vidarte. I use she, her, ella pronouns. And I am the parent and family coordinator. Again, just started in June. I just finished my graduate program this past May. So I'm very, very excited to be here and be able to serve you all and help you all support your student in the best way possible. And I'm also joined by my wonderful student assistant, who I will let introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name's Alondra. I am the parent and family student assistant. I have the privilege of working really closely with Angela. A little bit about me. My major is social work, and I identify as a first generation student myself. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yes. So together we are part of the Office of New Student Orientation and Family Programs, the team who is dedicated to really help families stay informed, stay engaged, and confident as your student moves through college. So just for everyone's reference, we just wanted to go over what our goal for this session is to get you all or give you all a better understanding. But our goal truly is to help you all understand what your student might be experiencing if they do identify as a first generation student. And just because this is tailored towards first generation students doesn't mean that it may not apply to any other student. But we want to make sure that you all understand what your student might be experiencing academically, emotionally, and practically as a first gen college student, and to explore the ways that you can truly support them without feeling like you have to fix everything for them. Because I know it could be hard. Sometimes, truly, the best support just comes from listening, encouraging, and celebrating the smallest accomplishments along the way.
Yeah. Before we get started, I'd like to get to know you guys a little bit. Um, I switched my microphone. Hopefully it got fixed. But I want to just ask, like, oh, what year is your college student in? What year is your college student in? Yes. And what are your hopes, for your student in their college journey? Feel free to like drop it in the chat. And I always love hearing different perspectives, different stories. Because college isn't always about academics. It's about personal growth, new experiences, and just support, you know? Yeah. Okay, incoming freshman. I
Yes,
I
feel
know there's
free.
more than one parent. Yes, freshman. Ah, that's so exciting.
Oops, sorry. Just finishing his first semester. Wow. Okay, we have a lot of first year families. I love it. Yes. What do you all hope for your students' college journey, especially those who say that they identify as first year? While you all respond, I also do want to let you all know, I hope it worked. Technology is not my strongest thing. There is also a question and answer feature on your Zoom, where you can ask questions anonymously if you do happen to have a question throughout this whole presentation. But also feel free to use this chat as well. If a question comes up, if you have a doubt, if something didn't make sense, please feel free to use it and communicate. Alondra or I will be responding to those. But yes, you all continue to respond. We are just going to continue to move forward just to make sure that we are aware of everyone's time. So before we actually hop in, I did want to go in and kind of give you all some context of where this first generation term came from and how it even came about. In 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson, who was an actual first generation college graduate himself, he signed the Higher Education Act. That really opened the doors of college to more students than ever before, especially those students who, like him, identified as first generation. The same spirit continues today at Cal State San Bernardino, and in Cal States all around, where being a first generation is a proud part of our identity and where every student has access to the resources and support that they need to succeed. This act essentially opened up all of these programs that you all hear your students probably talking about. It opened things like financial aid programs, so all of these grants, these scholarships that your students may have applied to. It opened up a lot of tutoring supports, all of the advising, and all of these programs to really help these students thrive. Because again, that president at that time felt the need that he wanted to ensure that no one ever struggled the way that he did. And signing this act really opened those doors to a lot of these minority students, a lot of these first timers who had no guidance and had no idea how to navigate the educational experience. But what does it even mean to actually be first generation, right? I feel that a lot of individuals have a different perspective on what it means to be first gen. It took me years. I was probably in like my third year of college to recognize that I was a first generation student. Just because again, first, I didn't even know what college was, how to navigate it. And then two, I didn't even know that this term existed. But here at Cal State San Bernardino specifically, a first generation student is someone whose parents or guardians have not completed a four-year college degree within the United States. More than half of our student population here actually identifies as first generation, and it's one of our greatest strengths here on this campus. Being a first generation student doesn't mean that one is unprepared, that one doesn't know, that one is less smart than their peers. It truly means that we're courageous and determined while we navigate this new territory. Your students, in a sense, are these trailblazers for your families and for their community, and they're paving the path, they're opening the doors for those individuals that are going to come after them. But with all of that, success, all of those strengths does come a lot, or there is a lot of pressures that come with that. And we will be talking about that, giving you all that perspective from a student themselves who identifies as first generation, and from myself as well. And again, if you all happen to have questions or concerns or something pops in your brain, please feel free to use that chat feature.
There's a lot of common myths and truths. And I really connect to this slide because of my own experiences, and I've actually heard these like day to day. One of the biggest myths is that first generation students aren't ready for college. I remember feeling like I had to figure everything out on my own, and I might have not been as prepared as other students whose parents might have gone to college. But I quickly learned that being a first generation student actually makes you strong and resourceful. We are used to figuring things out, asking questions, and adapting when things get hard. Another myth that that is about college success is about grades. Of course, grades are important, but success looks like taking care of yourself also, finding people who would support you, and growing into the person who you want to be. I've learned that being part of organizations and like talking to professors and asking for help when I needed is all part of success too. Um, and there is an idea that families can't help when they haven't gone through college themselves. And that is completely not true. Families can help in so many ways through love, encouragement, motivation, and they're always like constant reminder that we belong in college and we've worked so hard just to get to this place. And even as parents, you got your child here to this place. You're doing an amazing job by getting them to college. Um, yeah, and just common myths that yeah, we're resilient. We've asked questions, we've used our resources to get this far. Yeah.
Yes. And as Alondra mentioned, college tends to feel overwhelming, especially as your student navigates a system where they hear these things, right? First generation students, oh, because your parents didn't go to college, it means that you're not smart enough. Oh, because your parents never went to college, it doesn't mean, or it means that you may not be prepared. Oh, it's because you don't know because your parents never did X, Y, and Z. A lot of those things are things that students hear on the daily, especially once they start acknowledging and recognizing, like, hey, like, you know what, I am the first in my family to go to college. Like, this is the first time someone ever does navigate systems like this in my family. And it gets lonely, it gets stressful, and a lot of us end up feeling overwhelmed at times. Um, Especially when it comes to figuring things out like registering for classes. I know that maybe a lot of your students right now are in the middle of registering for classes and it may be their first time re-registering for courses and they may have been stressed trying to figure out like how does this work? Who do I go to? Who do I talk to? Am I taking the right classes? Communicating with professors might be something new to them. They're so used to having teachers communicate with them and teachers seeking them out. But now it's time for that student to be an adult and reach out to those individuals, reach out to the professor if they have questions, or even just simply managing their own time. As soon as we start navigating this whole college system, a first generation student might face that time management challenge, whether they've started working, they may have gotten their first job, or whether it's just a new sense of rhythm for them, taking classes at different times. They might have night classes, they may have really early classes, they may have a 4 hour gap in between their classes and they have no idea how to manage that time. But on top of that, many first generation students really do feel that pressure to make their families proud, which leads to that stress and that burnout. I always like to tell a lot of the parents and students that I work with that these first generation students carry this subconscious pressure. It's not necessarily put on by families. Families might not be telling them like you have to do good or else we all fail. But they just might be thinking that if they get a B minus on an exam instead of an A, they might feel like a failure because just because they got a lower grade. And then that leads to that thought process of like, just because I got a lower grade, that means that I'm close to failing. And then if I fail, that means my family's going to fail and I'm going to let my family down. And what is my family going to think of me? It always leads back to family because these students tend to be very, very family oriented. They tend to carry that pressure of if I fail, my family's going to fail. If I fail, I set the example that it's okay to fail or that failure is the answer. It's these subconscious pressures that one gets into again, and we don't recognize it, and it leads us to that stress and burnout. But as a family member, however, the way that would be most helpful and more supportive for your student is to really just sit down and listen. I mentioned in the beginning, sometimes the best support comes from just sitting down and listening, or even just simply asking, hey, like, what are you learning in class today? Or hey, like, what are you learning in college in general? Do you like college? What is it like? Like, what's the life like? Do you meet people? Have you met people? Instead of focusing on grades. I feel that in college, especially their first semester, their first year, trying to navigate and figure out how grades work and what that's going to look like, it gets very, very stressful because at some points we really don't know. There's no way, form, or shape of knowing what our grade is in that moment until the end of the semester. And it's totally okay. It's totally normal. But I know that sometimes having that pressure of like, oh my gosh, I don't know my grade. What if my parents ask me or my guardian or my supporters, what if they ask me what my grades are and I have no answers? They're probably going to think I'm failing and that I'm lying to them, whatever that case may be. So sometimes just having that conversation of, hey, like, what are you learning? Hey, how was your day at school today? Those simple conversations really do mean a lot. And also reminding them that it's okay to ask for help. If they do end up disclosing, like, hey, like, you know what, I'm struggling a lot. Like, I feel like college may not be for me. I feel like this major might not be for me. I don't like my classes. This class is too hard. I don't know what to do. Reminding them that it's okay to ask for help. As a first generation student and as a first generation professional, asking for help was the hardest thing that I could have ever navigated. But if I didn't ask for help, I wouldn't be in the exact place that I am here today. So I do really encourage you all to encourage your student to use those campus resources. They learned about it in orientation. If you all attended parent and family orientation, you learned about those resources as well, like tutoring, advising, our counseling and psychological services, to really encourage your students to seek those resources when things get tough. Also, talk openly about that rest, that balance, and mental health. I know mental health can be so taboo in a lot of households, but it's really part of success and it's the most normal thing that can happen. Don't have them separate from it. Don't have them separate from resting, from balancing, or from simply just taking that day off because everything is too much at this moment. Remind your student to take those breaks, and remind them to seek support if they need it, because seeking support isn't a weakness. It's a sign of strength, of resilience, and of wisdom. And speaking of resilience, I love theory. I love frameworks. And it's one of the things that I really did enjoy about graduate school, learning about all of these things to be able to share it with individuals who might find it helpful. But sometimes the story about first generation students really does focus, as Alondra mentioned, on what they don't have, right? They don't have the guidance from family who did college before them. They don't have that older sibling, maybe, that went to college already, and knows how the college system works. But here at Cal State San Bernardino, we would rather focus on what your first generations do have, which is incredible strengths that come from their families, from their cultures, and from their communities. Believe it or not, as parents, as families, and as supporters, you all cultivate that strength that your student carries. All of the success and how they succeed is all due to everything that you've all taught them up to this point. These strengths help them thrive, and we want you as those supporters, as the parents, as a family, to see how much of that success really does start at home with you. Your student didn't come to Cal State San Bernardino empty-handed. They came with cultural wealth, family values, and community strengths that really will help them succeed and are helping them succeed. As parents, as families, and as supporters, you're part of what makes them strong. You're not just on the sidelines cheering them on, you're literally their foundation. And this theorist, Tara Yoso, really tried to kind of summarize what these strengths may look like for those individuals that may be the first in their family to go to college, for those individuals that may identify with the minority community, that might identify with the low income community. And she summarized them into these 6 strengths or 6 capitals. It's either or, she calls them both. But it all starts with the familial strength. Again, that deep love, the loyalty, and the connection to a family and community. You all begin to educate your students on how to go for what they want. You encourage them to go for what they want. You've been supporting them in these K through 12 moments. And now in college, it may look a little bit different, but trust me, that support and that guidance And those constants, I told you to go to bed early because now you're tired and now you're going to have to go to school very tired. It really does make a difference because that familial strength, that support, that guidance, and that love helps them be resistant. It helps them recognize that just because a challenge comes their way, it doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. They may think of it in that moment and they may cry about it, which is 100% normal. Guilty, I've cried. But it's really what helps them be resistant. It's what helps them navigate these systems because they know, like, I'm not going to give up. Like, my parents, my family, and my supporters taught me, like, I can't give up. Like, I need to keep going. They taught me that I'm worth so much. So I'm going to find the ways to navigate this system. I'm going to socialize and use that social strength to get the answers, to get the help. I'm going to use my linguistic strength, use my words and my ability to communicate to get that help and to stay holding on to that hope, that aspiration of what I really want to do, which yes, for them in these moments it may be like I just want to graduate and start my profession, but in the long run they're really doing this the whole college thing, they're navigating it, they're trying to succeed to make their families proud, to make themselves proud, and to pave the path for those that may come after, whether it's a sibling, whether it's a cousin, whether in 10, 15 years from now it's a child, whatever the case may be, they are paving the path for themselves and for their families as well.
Common emotions that first generation students might face. It all stems from something that calls hidden emotional curriculum. And it's just a fancy word of saying that they're just not learning academic material. They're also navigating new pressures that come with being the first in their family to go to college. And as Angela mentioned, uh, some common emotions of first generation students may experience like imposter syndrome, feelings of like, do I really belong here? Or the guilt of like family sacrifices of their family history. They've gone through so much just to get them to this one spot. Um, and yeah, and then the sense of I can't fail, too many people are counting on me. Even the homesickness, if even if they don't dorm, the feeling of being away from home if the commute is a little longer. And this is really common, especially early on. They might feel torn between family and school or worried about letting someone down. And these feelings are completely normal, but they can be heavy. That's where family support really matters. Listening before you jump in to fix things can make a huge difference. Sometimes saying something like, "Oh, that sounds really hard. What would help right now?" It opens the door for some real conversation instead of just, "Oh, like how are your grades? Like get that up." Encourage healthy routines. Remind them take breaks. It's okay to ask for help. We have many counseling facilities here at CSUSB, one being CAPS. And encourage your student if you see them looking a little down to go and ask for help because it's a sign of courage. It's not weakness, asking for help. One of the most, and that's one of the most powerful things you can do is encourage them to ask for help. Oh, sorry. Um, and just remind them that they belong here and that they don't have to do it alone. There's a lot of stress that comes with being a young adult, like navigating like taxes and everything. And just think back when you were a young adult, like what advice would have helped you. And yeah, and they're becoming an adult, they're becoming their own person. So it's really difficult to like know when too much advice is too much or when to like give them their own space. But it's okay to ask your student like, "Oh, what do you need from me right now?" Or "Do you need space right now?" That's they would really appreciate if you have that open communication with them.
Yeah. And then again, as Alondra mentioned, they're navigating this whole adult world. For some of us, it may have been at the same time that your current student is trying to navigate the adult world. For others, it may have been at a different age due to different living circumstances. But one of the biggest changes that your student will face in college is learning how to make those independent choices, which also comes with a lot of pressure, with a lot of unknown, and with a lot of overwhelming feelings. And yes, it also means that they're going to be learning through mistakes. Your students are going to make mistakes. They might fall down so many times. And for so many of those times, they may not even let you know, which is 100% normal because of this pressure to be this perfect person, to make sure that they're making you proud. And their failures or their mistakes, they might fear that it might make you all upset. So just keep that in mind when you are talking with your student. When you do recognize a little mood change within your student, don't be so harsh on them. Rather, again, asking those questions of like, hey, like, how's school been? What are you learning? Is there any challenges that are happening? Have you met new friends? Have you joined a club? Whatever the case may be. But as a family member, it can be really hard to watch them stumble, to watch them fail, to watch them fall, to watch them cry. When all you really want to do is protect and guide them. But growth doesn't really come from perfection. It comes from trying, from reflecting, and from learning from experience. You have to fall down in order for you to be able to learn and get back up. If you don't fall, honestly, I'm jealous. But think of when your student learned how to ride a bike. We'll use that example. At first, you were holding on tight, and eventually you had to let go, so they could find their own balance, they could be brave, and they could really just, in a sense, fly off into the world, right, with their little bike. College really works the same way. Your students still needs you, or at least they need to know that you're nearby, for that encouragement, for that support, but they also need that space to find their own rhythm. I know, again, we might want to just put them in this perfect little bubble and protect them with all our mighty senses, but at the same time, we have to learn how to pop that bubble and let them go and figure it out, because your students are way smarter than they think they are, and they know way more than you think they do. Here at Cal State San Bernardino, we call this scaffolding, providing support early on, and then gradually kind of stepping back as students gain that confidence, as you see them get the hang of it. It's the same thing. If you've all taught your students how to drive now, at first you're like, no, like you're holding on to like everything you can in the car. Then you slowly start to let go because you see them get that hang of it. Your role evolves from being the fixer to the coach in these instances, especially as a first generation student. Yes, maybe we don't know everything that our students might be going. Maybe we don't know how to navigate this college system, and we might want to know all of these things to help our student get through these times. But if we can just be that coach and listen to them and help them in whatever way we can, that's going to be the biggest support that these students could receive. Someone who celebrates those efforts, that asks those thoughtful questions, and that reminds them that every little wobble is a part of the journey. Because the goal isn't for them to avoid these mistakes. The goal isn't for them to be this perfect human. It's for them to really believe that they can recover from these mistakes and that they can grow from them and they can keep moving forward. That's the Coyote way. That's just the typical way to really be able to thrive as a first generation student, and it's helped many. Um, One of the things I like to say is that before they learn, they need to feel safe and supported. It's just the basics of how a human survives. You all may be wondering what this pyramid is doing here. As I mentioned, I love theory. I love learning from other individuals. But this little pyramid actually has a purpose. It's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's in a sense a psychological concept that explains everything I just said, but in a better way. This concept that explains how humans need certain things before they can focus on learning or growing. At the base of the pyramid are the most basic needs. So, obviously, food, water, sleep, and safety. When those are met, a person starts focusing on relationships, on confidence, and on goals. For college student, this means that if your student is hungry, stressed about money, or doesn't feel safe or connected, it's going to be really, really hard for them to focus on studying or getting good grades. So before we expect academic success, we want to make sure that our students have those basic needs and that they're taken care of. I know a lot of us want to just let our students kind of figure it out, but when it comes to these basic things, we really want to make sure that we can support them in whatever way possible. And sometimes it doesn't just mean like, here's money for food, or here, like, I made you food. It also means pushing them to use the resources on campus. We do have a market for students, free markets where students can really buy their groceries. We have a dining hall where students can buy food that's already made. Your students always have those basic needs, but again, either providing or reminding them that they're available for them is going to ensure that academic success. And I know this is a very general chart. However, I made one that tailors to um, your student in Cal State San Bernardino. So at our institution, we know that student success is more than just grades. It's about supporting the whole person. When families understand what their students need at each stage of growth, it really helps them thrive both inside and outside of the classroom. So again, not just focusing on the academics. When we talk to our students, yes, it's very easy for us to be like, hey, so what are your grades? Like, are you passing? Like, are you going to graduate? It's more of like, hey, like, how are classes going? How are you doing? How do you feel? Are you okay? Do you need anything? And these are the ways that support can look like for your student. Basic needs, encouraging healthy routines, eating well, getting enough rest, using our basic needs center if they ever need help with food, with housing, or with other essentials. Safety and stability, having open conversations about budgeting, safety, and campus resources, knowing that they can come to you when challenges come up and make it really makes a big difference. Again, not being the parent, but also being that friend where students feel comfortable to come to you. Connection and belonging, staying in touch through calls or texts, send encouragement, and remind them that they belong here at Cal State San Bernardino. A simple "I'm thinking of you" or "have a good day" text message or a little call goes a long way. Confidence and growth, celebrating those small successes. If they got an A on a paper, let's go get some ice cream or let's go get you cookies. It really builds their confidence and their self-esteem to see you all celebrating even those small achievements. And then independence and purpose, giving them room to make their choices. Let them fall down, let them cry a little bit. If you really see them drowning, yes, help them, but let them figure it out on their own as well, giving them that space to be independent. And the key takeaway really is that success isn't just academic, it's emotional, it's social, and personal. And with your support and the support that Cal State San Bernardino has within its resources, your student can really thrive in every area of their college journey. Because again, yes, your student is coming here to get an education, but we're also not going to forget that they are human at the end of the day and they have other needs that they need met to be ordered in order to succeed.
Yes. Um, and then more resources for your students. One thing that I really appreciate about CSUSB is that it truly has a village of support for parents and families. No one here has to do college alone, and there's so many people, offices, programs that are dedicated just for your student success. For example, we have our academic success and undergraduate advising, and that office helps your students stay on track to graduate and really like appear like, so you can talk to someone in order to graduate on time. There's also the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships, which helps everything from understanding awards to finding additional funding for your college. Um, and it helps that smooth along. We also have the Writing Center, which is a great resource, especially for essays, presentations, or even any other assignment. I've personally gone a few times and it has really helped me to review my assignment before I turn it in to ensure that I get the highest grade possible. And one thing I do like about the Writing Center is that you don't actually have to go in person to get those services. You can tell your student, oh, just email them your essay, and they'll like respond to you with some feedback within a reasonable amount of time. But it's always helpful to go in person to get that help. Um, and then we also have CAPS, Counseling and Psychological Services. Like I mentioned before, this is a really great resource on campus. It's right near the health center, and it just it's a nice place to go and talk about things that you might not want to talk to your peers or your parents about. And yeah, and the big one in the middle is Campus ESP, and that is us. That's where we share information with you, with everybody. Um, and we try to stay connected, informed. We are right now building our parent and family program. So we like hearing all your thoughts and everything about our programs. And I just like to remind families that you don't need to have all the answers. College can be confusing for students sometimes, but your support means everything. What really helps is encouraging your student to reach out and ask when they need it. Remind them that asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. I sound like a broken record saying this all over again, but it's truly just like the first step, just asking for help, and then everything follows. Um, and yeah, and encourage them to figure out whether it be a professor, a peer mentor. There's always someone willing to help. Q&A.
Yay! And that is everything that we have for you all. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns? Take this time again to ask us anything that may be on your mind. You can use a chat, you can unmute yourself. I will also leave my contact information. I know Alondra talked about Campus ESP. You all might know that more as the Coyote Family Portal. And I'm hoping